Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my pure Spright Yugioh deck profile for March or April 2024. Kind of split down the middle. If, I wanted to upload this for March or April, we do have a potential ban list coming out in April. And with that, we may see some changes to the Spright deck. There's not too much aside from Spright Elf, which I don't think will come off the list, but wanted to update the deck because it was a favorite of mine for a good while to use at locals. This is a more pure variant that uses a couple level 2 engines mixed in with all the different Spright cards, which can still be a lot of fun with all we have to work with. And so let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Spright monsters, we're running 3 copies of Spright Blue. For those of you that don't know the Spright monsters, if you control a level or rank 2 monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Spright Blue once per turn this way, and if it's special summon, you can add one Spright monster from your deck to your hand, except for Spright Blue. So this is your search in the deck, just being a great special summon option onto the field, and then being able to grab another one of your Spright monsters, which can easily continue the engine extension. And one of those better targets would be Spright Jet, which we also run 3 copies of. If you control a level or rank 2 monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Spright Jet once per turn this way. If it's special summon, you can add one Spright Spell or Trap from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn, so being able to then grab off of Spright Jet cards like Spright Starter to then in turn just continue to extend your plays, or you can use the Spright Blue and the Spright Jet you have to overlay into different cards like our Gigantic Spright, or link to into cards like Spright Sprint to just continue your extended plays. For the lower numbers for these Spright monsters, I run 2 copies of Spright Carrot. Now the reason I run 2 Carrot, normally if Elf was still a thing, we could special summon them back from the graveyard to the field, but since we're working with more or less cards that once they're in the graveyard are a little more difficult to summon back, cards like this are definitely a 2 of, just so we have more to grab from the engine in the main deck. And Spright Carrot, you have the same special summon plays, but being able to then tribute another level rank 2 or link 2 monster to negate the effect of when your opponent activates a spell or trap. So great negation there, with the other negation play coming in the form of Spright Red, which stops monster effects, being the same wording for the special summon, and then just needing to tribute another level rank or link 2 monster to negate that effect. If you tribute a rank 2 or link 2 monster, you can destroy that monster also, and then also being able to use the same destruction play with Carrot if you tributed a link 2 or rank 2 monster. And then for the rest of the Spright monsters, just 1 copy of Spright Pixies, more of a way to get over some bigger answers. Like you can use Spright Pixies to get over cards like Red Eye's Dark Dragoon, making your level, rank, or link 2 monster all the stronger if another one battles an opponent's monster quick effect, sending this card from your hand or field to the graveyard. So it can either be in your hand of a search or just on the field to send also. For the other engine that I'm running 3 copies of Nimble Beaver. When it's normal summon, you can special summon 1 level 3 or lower Nimble monster from your deck or graveyard. So even if you have 2 beavers out of the deck, if you summon another one, your 3rd copy, you can use it to grab one from the graveyard. And then that's a rank 2 or link 2 play right there, or just a level 2 engine to have on the field to then in turn special summon another Spright monster from your hand to the field as well. And then also being able to make use of cards like Nimble Angler with cards like Spright Sprint to be able to send this card from the deck to the graveyard to special summon up to 2 level 3 or lower Nimble monsters. So then you can use Nimble Beaver to grab one of the Anglers, then use Angler to then grab the other 2 Nimble Beaver to summon onto the field. Either way, you have a pretty good level 2 engine just to keep grabbing monsters. And then lastly, for the level 2 engine, for going for more of the generic lineup in the deck, 2 copies of Red Resonator. This is just a good special summon option from the hand, or even if you special summon this card, you can summon it off of cards like Gigantic Spright. You can target a face-up monster in the field and gain life points equal to its attack. So a bigger attack and life point boost gain as well. And then the other 2 level 2s being 1 copy of Aperia. If it's summoned, draw 1 card. You can only use this effect of Aperia once per turn, so it could be another target off of your Gigantic Spright to then just draw a card if there are ways to summon it back from the graveyard, which we do have in the deck. More draw power during another turn. And lastly, the 1 copy of Wind Up Kitten, just being able to target 1 monster your opponent controls and return that target to the hand. So you can get over cards that have, destruction plays, effects in the graveyard by just using the kitten that you summon to bounce it back to the hand. And then lastly, for the main deck monsters, just 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. The only definitely level 2 monster in the main deck, but it's mostly just here for a hand trap position. For the spells, I run 3 copies of Spright Starter. Now, this card I know fluctuated off and on the ban list, but we do have it at 3 now. Use special summon 1 Spright monster from your deck, but lose life points equal to its original attack. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters except for level, rank, or link 2 monsters. So this is the same that we have for both you and your opponent with cards like Gigantic Spright. You can only activate 1 Spright Starter per turn, but still a great resource to grab resources from the deck onto the field. You can even just use this card during your, standby phase or draw phase, special summoning out your go-to Spright Blue, and then being able to use Spright Blue to grab another Spright monster without having to worry about your opponent activating cards like Drone Lockbird because of it. I also run 2 copies of Spright Smasher, being another searchable card off of Spright Jet. You have more of a search, and then with this card, banish the Springin's Therian or Spright monster from your hand and or graveyard to activate one of these effects. You can special summon 1 Springin's monster, or banish 1 level, rank, or link 2 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls. So this deck mostly uses it for the banish play, but being a quick play to banish that monster and then having a non-target banish of your opponent's cards is another great boost of just getting rid of resources. And then for another power gain, 1 copy of Spright Gamma Burst. If you have a good number of level, rank, or link 2 monsters on the field, using this card makes them all gain 1400 attack and defense for that extra boost that even if you just have a Spright core on the field, if you have the different monsters, you can use them to boost up your attack and then swing at your opponent for game. I also run 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity. Grabbing the cards you need is another very important part of the deck, so this card just helps for banishing some of the other generic link or rank 2 monsters we run in the extra deck to grab some other important cards we need. With the last of the spells being 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent, your opponent will definitely try any hand trap they can to, stop any of your Spright searches or special summons. So at least with this, you can get more draw power into the level 2 engine. And then lastly, 1 Call by the Grave and 1 copy of World Legacy Succession. This is just one of the answers to grab monsters back from your graveyard to the field, and also just to stop your opponent's cards. With our traps, running 1 copy of Spright Double Cross. Target 1 monster on the field or in the graveyard, then activate one of these appropriate effects. Attach that targeted monster to a rank 2 monster you control as material. Place the target monster your opponent controls in your zone your link 2 monster points to, and take control of it. Special summon that target monster from either graveyard to your zone your link monster points to. So just another way to grab a resource for your opponents by using this card, and another searchable card off of Spright Jet, with the last of the traps being 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence, just along with Ash Blossom to have a small hand trap lineup to utilize against our opponent. For the extra deck, we run 2 copies of Gigantic Spright, needing 2 level 2 monsters, so even with just your generic Nimble Beaver special summon, that could be enough to overlay the 2 together into your Gigantic Spright to get the engine going there. And then also with this card, for the Xyz summon, you can also treat a link 2 monster you control as a level 2 monster. The original attack of this card has Fusion, Synchro, or Xyz, or Link material as material becomes doubled, so making it a 3200 attack point monster as well. So if you do that play, you can even do the detach off of Gigantic Spright to grab cards like Red Resonator, and then target Gigantic Spright with Red Resonator and gain 3200 life points. And that's mostly just if you have more in your hand to use for the engine also. And it also locks you and your opponent in only being able to summon link 2 level or rank 2 monsters, so your opponent can't Nibiru any other initial plays they would want to use against you as well. Also, the 1 copy of number 65 Jin Buster, the 1 Sky Cavalry Centaria, the 1 Mannequin Cat, the 1 Onibnaru Soul Sweeper, and then also the 1 Downer Magician and the 1 Zeus for all the different Xyz monsters we run in the deck. And for the link monsters, I can't remember where I put my Spright Sprin, but that is the main card you use to set up the Nimble Angler in the graveyard. So I just have a Donner Dagger for Hire as the spot that would be the Spright Sprin. So if you have Spright Sprin, this is what Spright Sprin would be. I just don't know where my copy went. And then also the 1 IP Masquerena, the 1 SP Little Knight, the 1 Dark the Dark Charmer, and the 1 Nightmare Cerberus, and also the 1 Bujinki Asashima as another link 2 to be able to special summon monsters from the graveyard, and the 1 Nightmare Unicorn just to have a option with IP on the following turn to unicorn your opponent. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the setup with your level 2 monsters is a big part of it. So if you have cards like Spright Blue in your hand, and then just another, let's say, generic level 2 monster, you need that level 2 monster to be able to summon out to start your whole Spright special summon. But then the big play here is getting your search off of cards like Spright Blue, and you want to be able to lock your opponent out of their, Nibiru plays or anything they have there. A lot of times they'll try and just Ash Blossom your Gigantic Spright or Effect Veiler it, but if they can at least get past this, you only did 3 summons, summoning out your initial other Spright monster and locking your opponent out of being able to Nibiru you, giving you more of a free reign of special summons for that play. But the initial play can come down to having that 1 additional monster and another Spright monster special summon out. If you open up your Nimble Beaver, that'll give you a special summon of another Nimble monster from your deck. Then you can use the 2 to start the initial engine of your Gigantic Spright, going for the detach of your monster. As well, special summoning cards like Spright Blue to the fields. Blue searches out a monster, can search out Jet. Jet will special summon. Jet can then grab your Spright Starter. It's just that initial extension that the deck is meant to do, because then you can use cards like Starter and grab some of the lower number Spright cards like our Spright Red, which at this point, if your opponent did have a monster effect to use against you, at least have cards like Spright Red to be able to then utilize for a monster negate, tributing one of your other cards. You can save the Gigantic Spright for it, because then you'll have the destruction along with the effect negation. You can use Jet and Blue to go into Spright Sprint, which can be used to send additional cards like Angler to the graveyard to give you 2 more special summons of, your Nimble monsters to the field, and then just more and more Exceed resources to be able to go into thanks to those monsters. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, I've always liked the pure variant of the Spright deck. I've mixed it with cards like Evil Twins, Gishkis, Runic, you name it, but I always end up going back to the pure variant just for more of a fun, generic focus for all the different Spright cards. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.